What's up, everyone? My name's Elsa. My pronouns are she and her, and today we have a little series for you using a pair of light weights or dumbbells. You could use like water bottles, whatever really feels good for you and you have access to, a couple of cans of food maybe, really whatever you have access to at home. And we're gonna get into it. This is gonna take about 20 minutes. We have some upper body, some lower body, all that good stuff. So I'm gonna grab my weights. These are adjustable dumbbells that I have gone ahead and taken the weights off of. And we are gonna go ahead and start. So our first exercise is going to be an overhead press. You can either do this with both dumbbells at the same time, or you can do one arm, but we are gonna start with an overhead press. So in order to do the overhead press, we are going to start with our items at shoulder height, and then we just go ahead and we press straight up and straight back down. The trick with it is you don't want your shoulders to get caught up right by like your ears. You want to consistently keep them pulled down and back, pulling them out of your ears, and then pressing up, bringing them back down. Pressing up, bringing them back down. Another thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have to arch your back really in order to get it up. You don't want to have to struggle to get it up. You want to keep your booty tucked, so engaging your core, pulling your bum right under like that. And then again, just up and down. If your weights are pretty light, you could grab them with the same hand if you can safely do so, and then press up and back, up and back, just like that. And we're doing 10 of these per side. Right, so you're doing 10 per side. Again, if you want to grab them both with one hand, up and back, keeping that hand out to the side, up and back still. You don't want that shoulder to creep up because its tendency is going to be to stay up, but you do not want that. You just want to press straight up, straight back down. Straight up, straight back down. Once you have done 10 of those guys, we will go ahead and go into a fly. So for the fly, we're gonna stand, feet are about shoulder width apart. We're gonna use both of the weights at the same time for this one. And we are just going to pull it again, the shoulders down out of our ears, and then raise our arms, lower them back down. If you can get them so that they are at your shoulder height, that is great. If not, no big deal. Raise and lower. If you can only lift them a little, fine. Do whatever you need to. The goal is just to not like swing our arms up and down like that, right? We want to do it nice and controlled up, nice and controlled back, nice and controlled up, nice and controlled back. Ha. And again, not arching the spine like crazy, using your core to tuck your tail, and lifting and lowering. Once you have done 10 of those, we are going to go into a row. So you can again use both of the weights or one. And for the row, you're going to bend over, arching your spine, right? You don't want your back to round like that. Everything is arched, trying to get as parallel to the ground as you can, pulling back and lowering. pulling back, squeezing your shoulder blades together and lowering. Trying to keep your elbows tucked to your ribs. Pulling back and lowering. If it is difficult for you to keep your back like that, which it can take time to get used to, use a surface, so this table, for example. Place one hand on it, still arching your spine, using it for support, and then pull back and lower. Looking forward, pull back and lower. Using support is great and can definitely help you get your back into a better position for doing rows. So it is something that I would recommend if you have never done a row before, if you haven't done a row in a long time, if you still have trouble keeping your back arched, which sometimes I do. So it's a great opportunity to just put your hand on a bench, drop one of the weights, and then just do 10 per side. Instead, it might take a little bit longer, but going to be better in the long run, right? So again, we're doing 10 of those. If your weight is too light and you think, and you've tried it with support, it's not working, it's too easy for you, you can keep your back nice and arched on your own. You can do that, bring one arm out to the side, pull back and lower, pull back and lower. Nice and controlled still, and this is what it would look like from the front. Pull back and lower. You can also bring your feet in more, just like that. Right, so 10 of those per side, either 10 with both arms or 10 with each arm. Once you have finished up with those, we are going to go onto the ground. So you can either have a mat, a towel, a blanket, the ground itself, whichever works for you. Coming on down, and we are gonna do a glute bridge. For this, you can either use your weights or you can not use your weights, totally up to you. So for glute bridge, you're gonna start lying on your back. Your feet are gonna be about hip width apart, right, creating a nice bend in your knees. For glute bridge without the weight, you would lift your hips up the ground, off the ground as much as you can, in control, right, and lower. You would lift and lower, squeezing through your glutes, lift and lower, right? If that is feeling too easy, if you want to throw your weights into it, you can hold your weights on your hips and then lift and lower, lift and lower. We're gonna do 12 of these. Lower, lift, and lower. Lift, lower. If you can only lift a little bit, that's totally fine. If that is the case, I would probably recommend doing them without the weights, but it again could depend on person by person. But in general, trying to get your range of motion up would happen before you try to incorporate weights into a movement. Once you have done 12 of those guys, we're gonna get back up onto our feet and we're gonna do a squat. We can use these or not, totally up to you, right, and wherever you are at. So let's just go with a regular squat for now. So if we were just gonna do a traditional body weight squat, I would start with my feet about shoulder width apart. Sometimes I would go a little bit wider than that. It really just depends on what feels good for you, right? And then lower and stand back up, kind of like you are sitting in a chair. Lower it, standing back up, trying to keep your back flat, trying not to let your booty drop too much so like your spine rounds. If that feels good for you, you want to try to add your weights onto it, go for it. If you are trying to add your weights onto it, then would probably go right up at shoulder height, probably go at shoulder height. You could also hold them right here in front of your chest. Whatever feels good for you, right? So we would lower, stand back up. It's really whatever feels good for you. If weights feel good for you, use your weights. If weights don't feel good for you, don't use your weights. No harm either way, right? As long as it feels good for you. So we're gonna go ahead and do 10 of those. Again, you can adjust the amount of reps that you do if something is feeling a little bit more challenging for you, if something's feeling a little bit too easy for you, adjust it. Do what feels right. Once you have done 10 of those, you can take a couple sips of water if you would like, and then we are gonna go into our overhead presses. So you can go ahead, grab your weights. Right. So again, you can do both arms at once, starting at your shoulders, pushing straight up, straight down, pulling those shoulders down and out of your ears. Or you could do both at the same time. Just like that. Remember tucking your tail, making sure your core is engaged. Right, and then switching sides. If really it's gonna depend on the weight that you have, which way you are going to do this. If you only have one weight, you're only gonna do it with one arm. If you have two weights that are a good weight for you to do them both at the same time, you can do both sides at the same time. If you have two on the lighter side, you can do one arm at a time. Really up to you. Just breathe. Right, you can take a sip of water whenever you need to, catch your breath, shake your arms out, shake your legs out, shake your shoulders, take a dance break, do whatever you want to do. It's up to you how you want to spend your time. Our next exercise is again the flies. So we're gonna stand tucking our tail, right? Tucking your tailbone under, engaging your core as you do that, so you're not tempted to, like, a word for it is like get super thrusty, using your chest in order to do it, using your spine. So we are going to tuck everything under so we can keep the movement nice and in control. So we're going to start by just lifting our arms, trying to get to shoulder height if we can, lowering them back down under control. We're not swinging up and down. We're doing it nice and controlled. And we are breathing through the movement. I am a breath holder, so I do need reminders to keep breathing as I am working out. Some people don't have that issue, but I definitely do. So it's always good to have a little reminder. Keep breathing, keep going. It's all okay. 10 of these guys, if you remember to count. I'm gonna do what feels like time. Okay, once we have done 10 of those guys, you can roll out your shoulders. And then we're going to go into our row. So again, You are going to arch forward, looking straight ahead, keeping your elbows tucked to your ribs, squeezing, pulling back, lowering them back down, right? Trying to get as parallel to the ground as you can without rounding your spine. If you're gonna start rounding your spine, I would much rather you drop one of the weights or grab them both in one hand. They're less easy if you feel comfortable doing that, putting your hand on an elevated surface for support, arching your spine, looking forward, and then driving forward. All right, I would rather you keep your back in a nice comfortable position rather than trying to throw it into a position that isn't comfortable just so you can get your reps done. So again, doing approximately 10. Right? And then if you are doing 10 with one arm, it's 10 per side, not 5 per side, if that feels good for you. And then once you do that, we are going to go into a glute bridge again. So we're gonna go back down to the mat. We're just gonna come down here. Okay, once we are here, we're gonna bend the legs. Remember, keeping them about hip width apart. And then we are going to lift our hips, squeezing our booties, lowering them back down. We're gonna do 12 of these. We lift, lower everything back down. Lift, lowering everything back down. And remember, if you feel comfortable doing so, if this is something you want to do, you can rest your weights on your hips. Lift and lower, lift, lower, right? It's whatever feels good for you to do. If that isn't something that feels good for you, then you don't have to do them like that, right? Lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, lower, once we have done 12 of those, we're gonna come right back onto our feet and we are gonna do our squats. Remember, you can either use your weights or not, either way. Whatever feels the most comfortable for you and for your body. With the squats, remembering we're trying to keep our backs nice and flat. We're just trying not to round our spines at all. So we're just lowering ourselves, standing up. Lowering ourselves, standing up. We're aiming for 10 of these, right? And if you want your weights, have them up at your shoulders, have them in front of your chest, wherever feels right for you. Okay, and once you have done your 10 of those, you are done. If you feel like you want to keep repeating the circuit, you are welcome to. You can start the video again, you can start the last set again. You can do it without me talking in your ear. Either of those options are great. You can stop. You've done 20 minutes, that is plenty. As long as it feels good for you. Sometimes even carving 20 minutes out of your day, out of your week, taking that for yourself is way more than enough. takes a lot to do that. So I hope that you are proud of yourself. And thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your day.